In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Hello and greetings. This is Muhammad Suleiman Ahmadzai, here with a new session for you, my friends. We have a section called Select. For example, try to notice that when we select an object or a part. For instance, we click on this 3D object. We click on the page itself. For example, we select a part of it, like this much. The part that we select also has a screen tip. It shows up there. It displays W and H, width and height. That is, the length and width of the area we've selected. It's 383 pixels. And its height is 308 pixels. When I release, that same part is our selected area. We can move the selected area as much as we want, and if we want, we can also rotate it in that section. We can resize it and adjust it to different sizes. We can set the width and height of the selected area as we wish. Now, we press the extra control, or we can also select a step of the story. Again, we come back and select that part. That means we can see this size from here. How big is our 2D selection here and here? If we want, for example, instead of this, to select the whole page, we can tell it. Select all. Now the entire page is completely selected, and then we hold down the extra control. Or, for example, we can tell it to delete everything except the part we've selected. Then we can tell it to crop. Now, everything else gets deleted. Only that specific part remains for us. So, we select Undo. If we want, for example, to tell it what to do with that part, cut it so we can go to another page and paste it there. Or we can, for example, select Copy to copy it. Copy. Then, we can either paste it right here or go to another page and paste it there. Or we can also tell it to delete that part. Or we can rotate the part we've selected, turning it 90 degrees to the left or 90 degrees to the right. Flip will invert it horizontally. Vertical will invert it vertically. If we want to select, for example, this part using Magic Select, we can either click here or select from this section. Or, after Magic Select, if we click here, it will also activate. And if we don't want it, we can undo it from here later. We can manage it from here. If we want, we can tell it to turn itself into a sticker. Here, we have a lesson called Stickers. There's a sticker tool here. So if we want, we can use the stickers that we have. We can tell it, for example, that we want this selected part to turn itself into a sticker. This part that I select, for example, will itself become a sticker. And from here, in this selection section, we can tell it to make a sticker. When we click, it turns into a sticker. In the part where we've made a sticker, we can select it again, or even select its background. We can also do this using the degree option. Or we can even choose some of the color options for it. When we go to the sticker section, it's saved here. It has other stickers too, but it works exclusively as a sticker itself. We can use a sticker exclusively inside objects or anywhere else we want. For example, I tell it that we want to apply this sticker inside the face. Again, I come and select the sticker. For instance, on this line, what does this brush make our object into? It turns it into one. It creates a 3D object. That is, a completely three-dimensional object. We see that our entire face, inside that, what has happened? It has been applied along the line. So, it turns it into a sticker, meaning it's different from an emoji. Again, we can select a sticker afterwards. If we didn't want it, then again, we can choose our sticker later on. Alright, let's go over the stickers section again. So, when we select a part, we can turn it into a sticker. That's all. We can also turn it into a 3D object. It's like a 3D object, but it's different. It's just a 2D object. If we want, we can tell it to make it 3D. With a click, it automatically turns it into a 3D object. We want to see the 3D objects. For example, it's away from the surface. It's a 3D object. Now, this one isn't stuck to the surface like before. It's not like a 2D picture. So, what can we make with this tool? We can even create a 3D object if we want. So, when we select a part, basically we have these two options for it. After this selection section, we have something called crop. Crop works in a way that first, we make a selection. Then we cropped it. This way, we could work with crop. When you click on its head, it brings up the selection for us. You specify what you want to crop, how much space you want to keep. In the crop section, first we have the dimensions themselves, just like we learned in the photo viewer program. So our selection point itself, meaning our selection frame, could be 16 by 9. It could be 5 by 3. It could be 3 by 2. It could be 4 by 3. It could be 1 by 1. It could be 9 by 16 or custom. Meaning, I can specify myself how wide, how long, how much space I want, for example, to crop. I can select that. Or we can even take the selected area and, from here, assign it a specific value ourselves. If it's locked, we can unlock it. Well, the two are connected together. We change the width, we change the length. The width changes as well. If we didn't want that, besides specifying, we can say that we want this selection point to have a width of 500 pixels, and we can also set it to be equal. Its length can also be 500 pixels. Again, if we run these and, say, next time I change it and say this should be 600 pixels, there's no need to change anything else. It will directly become 600 together, because we set it up like this. Well, after that part, you make your selection, either by degree or by method. Manually. At the end, for the selected part, you either cancel or say done. Otherwise, what happens to the other parts is that they exit the crop mode. Only that part remains. This one isn't included because it's an object. It's not on the page. This is inside our 3D view canvas, meaning it's not on the page at all, and why wasn't this deleted or cropped? We had actually selected the part behind it. That's why this hasn't been cropped. It's inside the page. The area we had selected was actually this part. Apparently, this was actually positioned in front of the sheet environment. We thought we were selecting this, while in reality, it's not included. When we were cropping the 2D object. That's not really our concern. It was positioned right in front of you. It has nothing to do with that at all. It does. We can easily tell it that we only want this. Let them go as far as they want for us. We just tell it done ourselves. Now, since it's just a 2D object itself, it cropped the page for us. So, we can use cropping in this system. We also have something called Magic Select. Magic Select is kind of like the selection tool you know from Photo Viewer that we studied. We want to remove a part of the background using Paint. We want it to do something. Actually, in selection, it helps us a bit. For example, if we want to hide one of these, you'll see that it works. I click on Magic Select. After that, it shows us what we need to do. We need to select this part, this object that we want to hide. Pay attention, we need to select it. After that, for it, we choose Next. When you choose Next, it asks us what we want to do. In this part, do we want to add background, or on the contrary, do we want to remove it? For example, if I select it, the option is Remove. In the end, it removes it for us from this section, and we also select Autofill to see what it does for us. That is, basically, it fills in that spot. When I click Done, it actually deletes the object for you, but the spot it leaves behind isn't really that smartly filled. In fact, the whole point of this tool is that when you move an object from its place, it should fill in the spot so well that you can't tell an object was deleted or removed from there. But here, it seems there was an issue with the selection. It didn't really work properly. Or we can open those photos so that this procedure can be done more easily. We can hide the clothing from there, or for example, if we want to move it from one place. It can directly fill the background from one spot to another. We click Next. Now, if we want to select the head without, for example, doing anything to the object's head, we just move it. Now, it completely separates it from the screen, but it tries not to cut the background like before. For example, when we cut, there should be a blank area left behind. But it tries to fill that area with the background. If there's a situation, it shows it so that it doesn't actually look like that. But here, in fact, it is present. And if we want, for example, to copy and paste, it creates two versions and you can use it as needed. So what does an object actually do for you? It selects, and after selection, it completely removes the line for you. It fills the background area, but the object itself then becomes a unique object, turning into a 3D object. Meaning, It's not a regular image. These are 3D images. So if we, for example, zoom out from it, it still remains as is. In fact, we see that it has nothing to do with our page at all. For example, we might say that it's stuck to the page, but we see that it's actually a 3D object. It actually operates in space. So with a 3D object, we can even say it doesn't have to be there because it doesn't need a page. It doesn't need a canvas. These are created in an environment with their own reference. Well, its page is still there. We think it's on this page because the page completely extracts that object and turns it into a 3D object. But the selection is done by itself. It's called magic select. Well, this selection, if you remember, we had something called mouse move before, which we had worked with earlier. When we select this, we choose select with options with 2D objects. This is different. When we select a 3D object, its options are different again. So, from the next day when we start working on 3D topics, I'll explain selection to you again. How the content works inside 3D, and finally, dear friends, I ask that if you found the videos useful, please like them to support us and help the channel grow. Subscribe to the channel, and hopefully see you in the next sessions. Goodbye.